I'm the director of an operating unit of about 500 people. We work on a number of different things. It's called engineering systems integration is the name of our operating unit. But our primary role has been historically to work on the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Program, which I don't, it's an older system. I'm sure most of you are aware of that, and we do a lot of sustainment and modernization kinds of things there. It's a big contract. It's been a $10 billion contract we've had with the Air Force for many, many years. So we're doing that as well as some other things now. We're branching out a little bit and doing some different work as well. I've worked for Northrop Grumman for 29 years this June, so it's been a great company for me. In fact, I started in an internship, and I won't give you the date, these will scare you. And it was the greatest company. I loved working there, and I've never ever regretted that. I also had an internship at Boeing, and that was a great opportunity, and I'm a big fan of internships. But I loved the culture, and then it was TRW then when I was hired, and now Northrop Grumman has bought TRW. But it's, I think what appealed to me the most about Northrop Grumman is that it's a company that works on nationally important projects. I'm very patriotic, and it was neat to go to work every day and think, hey, I'm keeping the country safe. That appealed to me. Northrop Grumman is a $30 billion annual sales kind of company, so huge company. It's a leading global security company. We do a lot of different kinds of work, everything from cyber to unmanned to logistics and sustainment to C4ISR. I mean, it's just a real broad spectrum, and it's international. We have work all over the globe now, and in almost every single state, probably almost every state at this point in time. So, huge company. And I think what I've loved about working for Northrop is that opportunity that you can, even though you're working for the same company, you can go do something entirely different. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself right now too before I start in? This is my mentor, Mike Springman.
One of her many mentors. She needed a lot of mentoring. I actually retired from Northrop a couple of years ago, and I worked there about 37 years and worked on some of the same programs Lori talked about. But it's definitely a place where if you're talking about going to work for a larger company, I assume Southwest Gas, how big is Southwest Gas? 2,200, yeah. If you get into a company that's got a sizable workforce, you're going to have to figure out how to navigate through that kind of company. And at Northrop, especially with 70,000 people right now, if you want to start moving around, you're going to have to start making some contacts, and that's where mentoring becomes a really key aspect of it. In my case, I worked across a number of organizations, and what's good is as you rise through the company, if you want to rise, I assume most of you do, then you're going to just begin seeing these opportunities. But having mentors that help you look in the right place is always better than having to go discover it yourself. So there's an awful lot of relationships between being successful in a company and knowing the right people and having people help you. And that's what we'll talk about more.
So I'm going to take a little different tack than the gentleman before us. I'm not going to talk as much about our internship program, although we have one, and if you're interested in it, come see me afterwards, because we're hiring a bunch of interns right now. But talk to you a little bit more about mentoring in general. Yeah, no tackling, I saw that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I want to talk to you about, how do you find a mentor, and what is there to gain in having a mentor? Just go into a little bit more detail on that. And I'll keep it brief because we want to be able to answer questions and answers, too. Question and answer period. Okay, so why bother? What's the big deal about mentoring? And I can tell you, it's the single most important thing that's helped my career was having mentors, having sponsors. And they're not always the same as your boss. In fact, many times not the case. So, it's more than just having a boss. It's finding somebody who's really interested in having a one-on-one relationship with you, is interested in your development personally. And it's not necessarily an easy thing. But one of the best things I think is, that person can help give you safe feedback. Sometimes it's better not to have it be your boss, so you can be more open, talk about what's going on at work. Mike has always provided me that opportunity where I could call him and say, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what's happening now. I could tell him how crazy my current boss was or whatever, and get feedback from him on, what does he think, how would he handle that? That has just been such a great thing to have that openness and that trust with him. But like Mike had already talked about it, it helps you also understand your organization better. It's a huge company where we work. Trying to understand how you get things done, where you go to get answers is a big deal. I think what's important too, especially at the stage you are in your career, and really forever, is we need to be open to seeing how other people see things. We all kind of tend to think we've got the right answer, and there's just not one right answer. So it's a wonderful opportunity to bounce ideas off to someone else and get their feedback on different ways of looking at things. Of course, it's promoting the career development. I can't tell you how many times Mike and others in my career, other mentors that I have had, have said, hey, there's this thing that you should probably go do, check into it. That's huge, just to be aware of that and have someone promote you. And he knew a lot of the people I didn't know that were the higher ups, and so that helped. He was kind of a sponsor for me as well. And again, just your personal growth, and we hope that we're continually developing and growing through all of our careers. What's the point if we're not continuing to grow? It's going to get boring really fast. And so that person can help you that way, maximize your long-term potential, build your network. And I kind of put a little, it's good for business. It's good for us as well in the business community. It makes people more effective, more engaged workers. So one of the things I think people have the biggest mistake people make about mentoring is they wait for the mentor to come find them. They think, okay, somebody's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, I want to mentor you. It's not typically that way. The best thing you can do is take responsibility for that yourself. It's almost all going to be about you and you finding somebody that you connect with, somebody that you want to model, somebody that you trust and you want to have help you in that growth pattern. So be assertive, be out there looking for who is it, that you would like to be like. When Mike, it's funny because Mike and I's story didn't start that great, where he came into the picture. I had kind of been reassigned to his organization against my will. And so I wasn't enamored initially with anybody that was going to come from that organization, which was, when looking back, is so ridiculously short-sighted. And so, but as I got to know Mike and I could see how bright, how sharp, how capable, how much I liked the style of how he handled problems, the way he would calmly think about, he wasn't somebody that reacted, big and aggressive about, got really upset about little things. So I think I'd like to be like that. And so that was kind of one of the things that helped me decide. I don't know why he picked me, but he can tell you that part.
I didn't pick you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And I loved his sense of humor. Okay. Okay, so just my experiences, I guess, in mentoring is there's going to be formal mentoring programs that you'll engage at all of your various workplaces, and then there's the informal mentoring. Just speaking for me personally, I've been in both, and the most meaningful relationships I have had have not been a formal assignment. It's almost like I believe it's like picking a mate or a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You got to kind of click with that person. If you don't, it's really hard to connect and want to give the investment that it takes to have a meaningful mentoring kind of a relationship. So that's just my perspective on things. I know of people who have been assigned a formal mentor that they have clicked, and it's been fabulous. So my first rule of thumb is don't ever turn down any formal or informal mentoring, because no matter what, you will learn something. Sometimes some of the most powerful lessons I've had in my career have been learning what I don't want to be like or what I don't want to do. Those are as important as what you do want to be like, maybe more so. At a minimum, you're expanding your network. You know, more people are going to know who you are, and more people are going to know how good you are. You know, that's crucial. And saying no is not the right message. When they say, hey, Joe, we picked you to be part of this program, and you say, thanks, I'm going to pass. That's not the message you want to send. So always take advantage of those. But for me, it's been more meeting someone that I want to model after, meeting someone who believes in me and my capability. And it is just like that chemistry that you can't really explain why that person offers to do that for you, and why it is that you're seeking out their advice. And so I always tended to look at people I admire, respect, one model, like I mentioned, and people who really were vested in me to some extent, because you'll have a lot of people that will be assigned, a mentor, or say they want to mentor you, but they aren't willing to take the time. That's not going to be helpful to you in your career. It's got to be somebody you trust. If you can't really be open and talk to them about, the whole point of having a mentor is being able to seek advice from somebody that you can tell the truth to of exactly, how scared you are. I remember one of the experiences I had with Mike was, and I don't believe I was still working for you in the organization at this time, but I had got asked to be a chief information officer here in Vegas at a project we had doing Yucca Mountain, and it was going to be this huge leap for me. I mean, it was going to be having 300 people work for me, and I think the max I'd had at that point was like 50 people working for me. And I was really nervous. I didn't know anything about, radioactive waste, and, but I knew a lot about IT. And so I was really nervous. And I just remember going for a drive. He had come out to talk to me about something. I can't even remember, but, we'd gone to lunch and we were driving back. And I remember, being able to say, I was almost choked up a little bit, but I said, I'm really nervous about this. What do I do? And he said something to me like, you do the same things you've already done to be successful. You got this. You have all the background, you have all of the, skills, you got this. And I don't know why, just that, his confidence in me that this is not something you're going to fail at. And he offered to be there, that, hey, call me. You get stuck, you got to use something, give me a call. He didn't have to do that, but he did, and that helped me. And if you don't have somebody that you can say, hey, I'm scared, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here, it's not useful if you got to put on a show for that person. So I just encourage you to find somebody that you can be very, very honest with. And because it does require an investment on both your part, there needs to be a mutually beneficial kind of a relationship too. It can't be all, take and give. So there's things that it needs to be back and forth that there's some kind of benefit that person's getting out of it as well. And I know at the time it was trying to make me into a better worker or whatever when he started. But then I think it, grew into having a friendship over that. It would be interesting to see if he nods his head there. Okay.
I didn't realize I was that great a person.
Yeah, I know. Can you see him puffing up? Okay. I think at this stage, we've got kind of some of the things to increase your likelihood. I don't know how long you want us to go, tell you would like us to.
I would just say keep going. We got permission to extend if we need to. So.
Okay, great. And I'll really go through this. So you take responsibility for it. How do you increase your likelihood of connecting with someone? That because part of it is a chance thing a little bit. So what do you do? First of all, you got to figure out, what are you about? What is it that you are going to be about? Where is it you want to go? What is it you want to do? And hopefully you can find somebody that aligns with those goals and those objectives, and that person will be the right person to try to connect with over time. Talking to people as much as you possibly can, getting to know as many different kinds of people as you can is huge. And I know for those of you that are introverts in the group, that's tough. But you got to push yourself outside that comfort zone and make yourself available. Meet and talk to people on a regular basis. I know this sounds really trite to be likable, but I'm telling you, nobody wants to mentor a pain in the butt. It's I have people, I work with I have, like I said, about 500 people reporting to me, and there are people who are geniuses. In fact, this goes back to your comment that you had made. You know, you could have really smart people, but if they can't practically apply things and they aren't a good team player or they're not somebody enjoyable to work with, it's not the kind of person that you want to invest a lot of time in, because typically that's not going to work for the company in the long run.
And another point to that is that usually the people that are seeking mentoring are those you want to mentor, because not everybody is worth mentoring. I mean, there are people that are going to be worker drones all their life, and that's what they want to do, that's fine. The people that want to improve themselves and get ahead are the ones that are going to seek a mentor. And those are the ones that bosses should say, I'm going to give that person some attention.
Yeah, very good point. I think enthusiasm for me as a boss is a huge draw. Somebody who's, you know, really excited about what they do. We had a gentleman come in and introduce himself to us that just got a job at Northrop Grumman. I think it was Ellie Rosen, thank you. So, I mean, just enthusiasm, you know, you could just feel how excited he was about starting work. It was like, that's the kind of person that you want to mentor, because they're excited about what they do. They want to learn, you know, they're open to having feedback. It's contagious. So keep that in mind, that that really does help you.
But generally, when you're on your first day of work, you probably shouldn't seek out a mentor the first day. You might want to wait a couple weeks at least.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very. There's the right timing to everything. I think one of the things that is huge is being open to feedback. You know, sometimes we think we are, but we're not so much. That you need to be able to listen to sometimes things that may seem critical to you. And oh dear. Okay, but the other part is that you want to be able to ask questions of people. And one of the folks had already talked about it here too, is that if you ask questions about somebody and you want to know more, you know, if you say to Mike, hey, I noticed you're really good at, you know, X, Y, and Z. How is it that you came about that knowledge? Where did you go to work? You know, what did you start with? What's your recommendation for what I should do next? That is the greatest. People love to talk about themselves, and people love it if you're interested and you're trying to learn from them. And I think sometimes we discount how much people can learn from us. And so that's a great way to open up conversation, just asking about people. Anything else?
Well, I thought your comment about that, generally a boss's favorite topic is himself or herself. And if you ask a question, like you say, if you start the conversation about that person or that person's experiences, you're going to get a lot of feedback and a lot of information just from that. So do not be afraid to ask somebody about how they got where they are, or what they might suggest as far as recommendations for how to become them, because they would love to tell you how to be them. And that's not a bad thing, definitely.
Okay, as I'm looking at the presentation, I might need to see the presentation here.
And also, if you are going to seek someone, or you find someone that you believe has the right qualities that you like to emulate, and that person seems to be moving in the direction you'd like to go in as far as a career, then again, be assertive. Again, if you show interest, you're going to get interest back usually. And if you find a boss that just doesn't have the time for it, that's not a good boss. Because the bosses should be looking for the next generation of leaders. And they should be trying to generate or build that confidence in that next layer down, or even a few layers down. However, you got to be realistic too. And if you're in a 70,000 person company like Northrop, you as a first year employee should probably not go to the CEO of the company and say, will you be my mentor? Because that's probably not going to work too well. Even though he or she might be interested in doing it, it's just not going to work out. So you have to be realistic in what you're going to target, who you're going to target as a mentor as well.
Good point. I have a funny story about the CEO of the company, and hopefully this is not a bad thing to do. current limiting thing to do, but it was funny because we hired like 60 interns in Utah last year. And you love it when somebody's really enthusiastic and engaged, but one of the, one of the guys wrote Wes Bush, who is the CABO, and said, but he said it in a way that was so funny, it would be so cool, you know, if you would, you know, come and attend one of my workshops that we do at lunch. There's about 10 of us that get together at lunch, and we would love to have you join us. And of course, you know, at my level, I'm thinking, oh, crap, he's written the CEO. You know, that doesn't he understand that's like 5 layers up? And it was, but what was so funny was that Wes Bush wrote him back and said, "I'd love to. That'd be great." And it was, so we ended up having this this afternoon session. He didn't actually come, but he came, you know, attended via telecom. But so I guess, you know, it goes to show you that sometimes being assertive isn't all bad, but that got a lot of negative attention for ITU, so I wouldn't go CEO your first day. Maybe a couple layers up, not clear to the top. I talked to you already about ask. You know, that's the best way to learn. Keep asking questions, get people's thoughts on things. Even if it's something you think you don't need to know, you know, ask, because it might give you a different angle on something you think you already have nailed. Put yourself out there, you know, really go for it. This is just a quote that I like, that go into it just as a sponge. You know, open yourself up to all kinds of people and all kinds of experiences. You won't be sorry, and take some risk. You know, there's some things that I did early on in my career that I didn't really want to do, but mentors said, hey, this will be a great opportunity. You know, you take the leap and you do it, and you learn a ton, and your network increases, the opportunities increase. Just be open to that kind of growth. You don't, if you're getting comfortable, it's time to move. You know, you should not get too comfortable. You know, hopefully you're moving before you've got everything figured out. Okay, now we can go. Any other wise things that you want to share with us, Mike, and then we can go to.
Well, let's do questions.
Okay.
So anyone have questions? Just because we don't have water behind the computer and we'll have the end of the
Hi, so you guys have large companies. How would you go about seeking a mentor in a smaller company? Say, you know, like a small business with maybe 100, 200 employees, where mentors may not be as easily to come by, where there's a large pool to select from. Where would you go about kind of finding and selecting something like that?
In a way, it might be easier in a small company because it seems like everybody knows everybody else. And that could be positive or negative. The thing that you get in a big company is that if you see some negativity somewhere, you can usually find some positivity elsewhere. And that might not be the case in a smaller company. But I would think that out of 100 people, you should be able to find somebody. If you have the presence, it's seen as though you're a mover and a potential shaker, then you'll want to be mentored by somebody. See.
Yeah, so, okay, so he was asking, what about going outside of the company? Would there be any value in that as opposed to sticking within the company? I'm sure there may be some value. You know, you want to look and see where exactly are you trying to get to, and who would have information on how to get to that spot or that position. You may have different, like in Southwest Gas, for example, you may have different divisions. So down in Arizona, you may be working in Arizona, but up in Southern Nevada, they have another division that does the same exact things. same positions. So, you know, you want to look at that. Is it a similar business, similar engineering companies? Are they doing the same processes? Are you going to be able to learn and gain value that's going to help you get to that position? So that's a lot of what I do is, you know, look and see where do I want to go and who's going to have the information that's going to be able to help show me maybe they've already traveled that path and reached that point I'm trying to get.
Just a thought, I think it's good to do both. You don't need just one mentor, you need multiple mentors. You know, so I think you can, like he was mentioning, I mean, there's people outside the company that deal with things like, hey, I've got a difficult employee and I need to know how to do X, Y, Z, but they don't necessarily have to know everything about, you know, the gas company to be able to do that, so.
I'm going to bet that most of you are not going to work for the same company for the next 35 years, like our generation. Am I still the same generation? Yeah, it's done. And because right now the workforce is more mobile, and so it's easier to move around too. So I would suggest that if you can find mentors outside the company, that's all to your benefit. It'll give you more flexibility as you progress in your career.
You were talking about being like a worker drone when you first go into a company. What were some of the things that you did differently to make yourself in a position of more management and to make yourself grow?
It's my theory. Oh, he says, if you're just a worker drone coming in, how do you differentiate yourself as you begin working in a company? It's my theory that management can see those that have potential almost from day one. You can tell. They come in with enthusiasm. They come in with I guess, a desire to become more than what they are. And you can tell who's got management potential. Sometimes it's hidden for a while. But I'm saying that I think you can tell even in the interview process, you know, where there's some real potential. And those are the people that are going to be differentiated almost immediately from worker drones. And worker drones, by the way, are not negative necessarily. You need drones as well as queen bees, as we know from this queen bee.
I was going to say, I'm questioning whether I should have invited you, but I'm joking. This is our relationship. One of the things, just from my perspective, is that no matter where you are, be the very best at that job that ever was. I don't care if you're scrubbing toilets, you are the best dang toilet scrubber there ever was. You just shine at that, and that's really, it will get you noticed when you try to go above and beyond and be the very best at what you are, and you look for opportunities to do more. There's not that many people that do that. Sometimes people kind of tend to neglect their current job. They're so busy looking for the step up. That doesn't speak well for you.
Because good workers and producers are easily recognized. You can tell that. If management does it, they're bad management.
And then also, in addition to that, I would also, or some things that I've done is tell them, told my boss I want more projects, more difficult projects, and express that interest that I want to advance. And when they see that helps too.
Yeah, just to add on to that, from the intern side of things, it's like when you go to school, you don't have to get an internship. When you're done with school, you have to get a job. So right off the bat, having an internship shows that you're interested in moving forward with your career. So just one of those things that you can look for yourself. You don't, not necessarily even staying within the company that you get the internship with, but just having that on your resume shows that while you were in school and while you were learning, you were still looking forward to bettering yourself.
In fact, the internship I had with TRW, now Northrop Grumman, I was recommended by one of my computer engineering professors that I didn't know this when he kind of started mentoring me, but he was somebody that was like
adjunct faculty there, and I didn't realize that. And his real job was being an engineer at Northrop Grumman. And so when he said, "Hey, we have internships and you should apply, you're my top student," it was like, who knew? You don't know the networks that are out there. So yes, the more mentoring, the better.
For Northrop, how would you go about applying for an internship for this summer?
Come see me, seriously, because there's so many people that apply that, I will try to, if you can tell me where it is you'd like to be at, I can try to match it up to who is the right person to get your company, to get your resume to within the company. Within the ICBM arena, I'm guessing that we'll probably do about 30, and we're looking right now. So if you were interested in coming to Utah, it's an awesome place to live.
By the way. And like at most big companies, there's probably not a single internship point of contact to send something to, because each of there's 4 sectors, actually 5 sectors in Northrop, and each one sort of has its own program, and even below that, there's some individual programs. But like Lori said, if you can get it to, the right place to start, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, depending on which geographic interest you have or what sort of academic interest that you have. And right now is about the time too. I think they start doing all the requisitions for positions in the late January, early February.
Yeah, and if our companies aren't the ones you want to go to, just call up the main office and ask for the HR department and ask them about whatever program you want to get into their internship program, and they'll help you.